Hi, and welcome back to this course of videos on MongoDB. In this video, we will be installing MongoDB database and also accessing that database from a command line interface. We will also be looking at a completely separate database called MySQL. Now, we talked in previous videos about a difference between NoSQL databases, of which Mongo is one, and SQL or relational databases, of which MySQL is one. And we will be using MySQL in all future videos going forward to cross-compare side by side with MongoDB. So back to installation, go to mongodb.com, click the download button, extremely simple, follow the steps, it will be downloaded to the following folder. If I go to C and I go to Program Files, MongoDB Server 3.4 is the version, bin stands for binary. Here is where my Mongo was downloaded to. I have two files of interest. First of all is the mongod file. Mongod is the actual server itself. So when I run this executable file here, it will instantiate my server and start it listening. Mongo, on the other hand, is the command line interface that I will be using to access the data on my Mongod server. So let's actually run our Mongod file to start our server listening. Now what I'm opening here is called a git bash terminal. It is exactly the same as a terminal on your Mac or command prompt on your Windows, but it means that I can write using Linux syntax, which I will. So you can see I've opened already in the folder that contains my Mongod executable file. I'm going to run it, and you will see immediately it will error. And the reason it errors is because data directory cdatadb is not found. Now, Mongo needs this folder to store the information regarding the databases that it holds, but it doesn't do it by default. So we are going to have to create that ourselves. So if I go back to my C drive, and I am going to make a directory called data, I will cd into that folder and I will make a directory called db just to check it's been created. ls, there my db file has been created. Now, before we go back and we run our Mongod file, and now it should work, I just want to go to look in Windows Explorer at the folder we just created, and you can see data.db. It's completely empty. Now, what's going to happen is once we run Mongod, we will see that that folder will be populated with all the necessary files. Now, you can see now here I'm making my way back to the relevant file that I need to be in. I think it's 3.4 and cd bin. So I'm back in the correct folder, and again I am going to / run MongoD. I don't actually need to write exe, so I'm going to leave it off. And now my server should successfully start running. And you can see it's waiting for connections on port 27017. So when you install MongoDB on your computer and you instantiate the server and start it running, it will run on your local host, which is port 127.0.0.1, which is basically just creating a server on your local machine. And on localhost, it will be listening specifically on port 27017. So now we have our Mongod, my actual Mongo server listening. We're now going to actually start the command line interface. So I go back again, MongoDB server, 3.4, bin. We want to run this Mongo exe. So I'm going to create a separate, open up a separate terminal. The reason I need to open up a separate one is I want to keep my server running on this CLI here, this command prompt here. I want to keep that running, so I need a separate one to run my Mongo command line interface. So again, I don't need to type .exe. I do need to say / so Mongo. This will start my command line interface, and you can see that in the background our server reacted there to the connection that we made to our server. And just to check that we are connected okay, I'm going to run a simple command called showdbs. Now that will show me all the databases that exist by default in MongoDB. We have 2 databases in there by default. Now, we're now going to look at a similar thing in MySQL. Before we do, I just want to show you a trick. Rather than having to navigate into all of these folders and get to the correct folder before we can run Mongo or MonGod, there's an easier way of doing this. There's a way in Windows that you can instantiate your server with MonGod or instantiate the CLI from any directory. You don't have to navigate to this directory. I'm just going to Control C out of here, and I'm going to Control C out of here to shut down my MonGod server. And I'm going to show you something in Windows. If you just go to your environment edit, you need to edit your environment variables. So it's System Properties Advanced, and click on this environment variables here. There's a path variable. Now you want to edit that path variable. You can see I've already done it. Let's say I haven't. This is the path here to our MonGod and Mongo files. Let me just delete it just to show you how it works. I would create a new environment variable, and you just paste it in there. You OK, just OK all the way out of here. Now what I'll find here now is I'm going to open up a regular Windows command prompt here. I am not in this path to the Mongo files, but I can still instantiate my MonGod server just by typing this, and you can see my server instantiates. And then in it, I can open up a separate command prompt here, and I could also just do my Mongo and connect to my MonGod. So I'm just going to Control C out of there and Control C out of here to shut the server down. And so that's a much easier way of instantiating your Mongo server. Now let's take a look at MySQL. Connecting to MySQL is simpler than with Mongo. I'm going to open up a command prompt here again. Instead of actually having to open up 2 completely separate command prompts, one to start your server running and one for the command line interface to access and write commands to the server, you can do it all in one. So I've already installed MySQL on my local server, and so I'm going to write the command MySQL, and first of all I'm going to add some parameters here. So _user means my username. I'm going to log in as root, and sorry, not underscore. -p will prompt me for the password. I'm going to enter in my password here, and I'm immediately, my MySQL server has been instantiated and I am connected to it via my command prompt. So unlike Mongo, this is kind of 2 in 1. And we will do the same command as we did with Mongo. Instead of show DBS, it's show databases. With MySQL, you have to put the semicolon at the end, but it's exactly the same command. You see in MySQL, we don't just have the admin and local, which we had in Mongo. We have 4 default databases that MySQL provides. So another interesting thing, you can't Control C out of here as you do in Mongo. You have to, I think it's exit, there you go. So I hope that gives you a good introduction to how we instantiate our MySQL and Mongo servers and connect to these database servers with a command line interface in order to write commands. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.